Good morning. Thank you so much for tuning in to our training this morning on winning website tips. I will be your presenter. My name is Kim Sherman-Labrum. I am a business consultant for the Idaho SBDC who specializes in the digital marketing world. And so if it has to do with digital marketing or online or websites or anything, generally, I am your go-to person for that. And if I don't know something about it, then I can probably refer you to somebody who knows more. With that being said, we are putting this on in conjunction with community education at the Boise schools, and we're so happy to partner with them. We've been partnering with them for, I guess, 8 or 9 years now, and just really a great program. If you haven't checked out their other offerings this spring, definitely, I think we've got 3 or 4 more weeks of classes left. So the Small Business Development Center is a is a program that's available for entrepreneurs to be more successful. It is federally and state funded. And with that, it is available to you as a small business owner or a wannabe small business owner. And I don't know if that's where you're at, but if you are, then we offer free, confidential, no cost mentoring and consulting. And we also do trainings like what you see here. We also do ones where we bring in experts outside of our office and have them do training. And we also sometimes get people nationally, even more so now that we can do it all via Zoom. And so I do have the chat window up. So if anybody wants to chat a question, you're more than welcome to do that as well. And I guess I should give you a little more of my background. I have been with the SBDC for 22 years. I started as the administrative assistant, and I inherited the training program. And when I inherited the training program, I also inherited the fact that it had a $20,000 deficit. So I had no money and I had no training and I had goals that I had to reach. So I had to learn how to market. So I did. And I was also on the board of directors at a community theater locally. And so between that and, my work at the SBDC, I was just having to learn how to get people to come to events. And so social media was a big part of that. Email marketing was even bigger earlier on. And also I have a degree in graphic design. And so that's where the websites and the SEO stuff and everything kind of has come from over the years. So with that, that's kind of my background. I also know about startup businesses and franchises and a variety of other topics too. But my main bread and butter is the digital realm. I have colleagues, their focus is HR or financials or whatever it is that you're looking for as a small business owner. We also, if you're all in the Boise area, have 2 accelerator spaces. So if you're working from home and you're looking to get out of the back bedroom and you need some space and you want some more intensive mentoring, then our accelerator spaces might be an option for you. So with that being said, I'd like to know a little more about who I'm talking to today. So it helps me. I have, 20 some slides or so that I want to go through and talk to you about general best practices for websites. And if I know more about you and your business and also what you really want out of this, then I can tailor it to what we need and to make sure that you get the best experience out of this situation where we're all kind of virtual. So the person that's up on top of my screen is Melissa. Melissa, are you ready to talk to us?
Yes.
Great.
Melissa, can you hear me?
I can. Thank you.
Camera shy.
Okay, if you're camera shy, that's fine. I'm sure you're lovely and I would love to see your face. But if you don't want to, I get it. I understand. It took me a long time to get really, it took me a long time to get comfortable on camera. And now I'm like, sure, whatever. Film me, put me on TV. I'll Instagram live. I don't care. I actually just started with TikTok and I'm like, ooh, what can I do there? So anyhow, Melissa, tell me a little more about you and your business. I assume you have a business or you want to have a business and what you want to get out of today.
Yes, my husband and I have an electrical business. So he does residential work, and we've been in business for 2 years now. And so just to save money, I am the one that put the website together. I'm currently using Site 123. I'd possibly like to transition over to Wix, but I've been having, I don't know, some difficulties navigating the website and getting it to do what I want to do, because Site 123 is limited a little bit. Like, for example, you can't paste code, that kind of thing. But I guess, basically want to know how to get more leads and answer, I guess, customer questions quickly. And yeah, just whatever tips that we need to get more customers calling us or sending us emails, that kind of thing.
Great. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. That's fantastic. And I have opinions about Site 123. So, and I would be happy to share them. I actually have opinions about all of the website creators that are out there. So, and I'll give it to you, like, I don't have any personal investment in any of them. So the great thing about my opinion is, well, it's my opinion. But I don't get a kickback from anybody. So it's as unbiased as it possibly can be. So I will give it to you as straight as I can. So, all right. Amanda, would you like to share about yourself and your business, if you have a business, and what you're looking for today?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I have I mean, I even go so far as to call it a micro business / charity that that I run out of my house. It's I repair outdoor gear, and like I said, it's just out of the second bedroom in my home. I have a small website that I built on Wix, and I'm definitely not a graphics designer. It's not pretty, and I just would like to get a lot more of the traffic that's coming to the website, directing it towards phone calls and people actually reaching out to me. I've had some success with that, but certainly not as much as I'd like.
Fair enough. And I'm sorry, Amanda, you kind of cut out a little bit. What is it that you do again?
I repair high-end outdoor gear, like tents, backpacks, and sleeping bags, the kind of things you'd see at REI.
Oh, okay.
The micro business.
Outdoor. Okay. I'm making notes so that I can refer to them as I go along, because I'm going to share lots of information with you, and I want to make sure that I make that this is as customized as I can as we go along, so that this is as good as we can where it's not in person. So the next person on the list that I see is Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, can you see me?
I can, and I can hear you. Thank you.
Sure.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So
I have a puppy in the background, so sorry if you hear his comments.
he wants to get in on the action too. That's the wonder of working from home.
Always. Yeah, so I am a jeweler. I've been in business since, technically I started a nonprofit here in Boise in 2008, and then switched over to for-profit, making jewelry and selling it in 2011. And I've just been doing that, kind of chipping away at it for years. And I've done it full-time since 2014. And that was when I moved away from Boise. I moved to Denver. And so moving to a larger city, it was very easy for me to always be involved in shows and things like that. And now that I'm back in Boise, I'm kind of shifting from doing kind of like all of these shows and doing wholesale to trying to do more retail online and custom pieces. So that's, and my website is on Shopify currently. And yeah, that's what I'm
All right. Great. So Mike, I have a quick question. You said that you were a nonprofit. Tell me a little more about that. Was it, when you say nonprofit, what was it benefiting? Who was it benefiting?
Well, when I graduated college, I really wanted to teach classes, metalsmithing classes or craft classes to our community. So a friend and I originally started something called the Mend Project. And we did this large installation show at the Linen Building where we had people send kind of like Frankenstein dolls that they had made from all over the world. And then we auctioned them off and gave that money to the Women and Children's Alliance, and I think it was like the children's home that was on Warm Springs. I don't know if it's still that. And then that kind of transitioned into a school, and it was called the Idaho School of Art and Craft. And we taught metalsmithing classes as well as other art and craft classes. And we did an outreach program with the Boys and Girls Club, teaching them metalsmithing.
Oh, very cool. All right.
But I
Excellent.
didn't know anything about nonprofits, so that was the challenge.
Nonprofits they're hard. I mean, and there's a lot of them. And the thing about nonprofits in Idaho is we literally have more profits per capita than any other state in the US based on our population. So it makes it really hard, especially when nonprofits are looking for funding, because there's so much competition in the market here for the limited availability of funds that are out there. So anyhow, as you probably figured out, and that's one of the reasons why you transitioned over to a for-profit model. So. Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing. So, and last but not least on our list is Karen. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
Good morning. So, Karen, you popped in just a tiny bit after I'd said. What I'm asking is everybody just kind of explain who you are. You know what kind of business you have if you have one, and what you really want to get out of today's presentation.
So I work full-time, and a couple of years ago I moved into this apartment and I started going through my stuff I'd collected, lot of beads and items and stuff that I just always kept collecting because it was interesting. They were pretty. I have no idea what I was thinking when I was doing it, but I've been collecting for, oh, wow. I have stuff that's 50 years old. That I collected 50. I'm that old, 50 years ago. So I started out making jewelry. I have a lot of steampunk stuff and very eclectic kind of stuff. And then I got an Etsy site, and interestingly, I work with a dozen systems for my job, but they're the company's systems. And for whatever reason, I'm really good at learning other people's systems. And of course, you go through training and everything. I have a lot of trouble with my own. I had to get a new laptop. I put that off. I tried doing it on an iPad and all this to get a site going and everything. I've morphed into, I do really interesting things like topographical maps of Idaho made with beads, mountain ranges with all sorts of different things. I do a lot of collage stuff. I do, yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff now. I just sort of see something and think, you know, what could I do with this? I made an interesting box using the postcard from the old Idaho prison, and then it has a cutout of Idaho on it. I would do a lot of stuff with covering wood with different materials and everything. I have a Shopify site. I went with Shopify. One reason was because my son has a Shopify site, and I needed to be able to talk to somebody who knew what to do. You know, unfortunately, he knows almost too much in terms of, he knows his stuff. He knows what he believes. He's like his mother, pretty opinionated, but he has advice for what I should do to get the site going and stuff, and what it should look like and what should be on it and everything. And it's him, and I need to learn other things from other people on what works for selling eclectic artwork. And, you know, what
Mhm.
kind of that sort of scope of what works, what, you know, he says, no, people don't care about this. They don't care about that. They just want to click to this. They just want to click to that. And I tell stories about things I make and stuff, and where parts of where some of the stuff is from, and why I did what I did. And so we conflict on that. So then I end up not doing anything but just making a lot more stuff, but not getting it online. So I guess I'm looking for other opinions, other ideas, other what works. What's a good idea? What's a, you know, not good idea?
Okay, fantastic. All right. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, okay, that is what I needed to know. And so the one thing I don't have in this slide presentation is talking about the platforms. And so I will add that, and we'll talk about that at some point. So, okay, so I'm going to officially begin. And so what is the goal of having a website? All of you have a business of some sort, and so therefore, one of your you have either one of two goals, or you could have both. But your goal on having a website is either conversion, meaning that somebody buys your product, downloads your book, does whatever the conversion point is, or lead generation, meaning we start the conversation and then it says, okay, I get a quote, and you're making something bespoke or custom or whatever. So that's what I mean by conversion or lead generation. If your website is not set up to do those two things, then it's not a business website and it's not effective. And so that is, you know, one of those things. A lot of my items that I'm going to talk about today, I will give you the, well, it could be this or that, but there's a couple of points that I'm going to say, no, this is it. So as far as this is one of the things that I'm not going to quibble on. If your website is not converting, or if it's not giving you lead generations that are going to lead to a conversion, then it is a failure, 100%. Okay. And don't feel, you know, if you want to chat me, or if you want to turn on your microphone and ask a question as we go along, please, by all means, do so. That would be great. And then tell me if I'm going too fast or if I don't cover something correctly. So, okay. So the next thing we want to think about is when we put together a website, we have to design with two sets of eyes in mind. The first set is our Google, because if people can't find you, then it's really hard to convert them. So, and our second set is human. And unfortunately, the design that works for humans is diametrically opposed to what Google wants. Google wants all text because that's what it caches and puts into the search algorithm. Whereas humans, too much text throws them out and makes them not want to be involved. So we love, as humans, we love images. You will hear me say over and over again as we go along, people on the internet are lazy and they have ADD. Okay. And so if you keep those two things in mind when you are designing and putting things out there, then you will know that you'll be on a really good path. And I say that because why? Well, if you give them a wall of text, they're not going to read it. They're going to bounce. They're going to go someplace else where they can get better information or faster information or easier information. Okay. So next. Okay. This is another thing that you cannot argue. You have to have this. On your website, you must have a call to action on each and every page. Why? Because people are lazy and they have ADD. And if you don't tell them exactly what you want them to do when you get to their website, to your website, they're not going to know, and they're certainly not going to put any effort into looking and trying to figure it out. So I've seen a lot of beautiful websites where I get there and I'm like, oh, okay, what do you do? I don't understand. There's a beautiful picture of you. Okay, great. I don't recognize you. You're not a celebrity. You're not a, I don't know who you are. So therefore, you can't be selling your brand as you. You're not a Kardashian. So what are you selling? And if I can't figure it out within about 10 seconds, I'm going to go because I got other things to do. There's probably cat videos on the internet that I need to watch. So I just need to not waste my time trying to figure out what your website's about. So a call to action really, really helps you and your customer figure out what it is that you want them to do. So some examples of good calls to action are shop now, download my book, book now, register, reserve, whatever it is. And they're usually kind of short and sweet. It's usually a button, but it tells me exactly what I want to do. Shop now, buy now, whatever it is. So if you don't have a call to action on your website, then that is the first and foremost thing that you can do to get more business. Because once they get to your website, they know exactly what to do. And you can have multiple calls to action on a page, but you have to be careful with that and make sure that they're not conflicting with anybody. So I have clients that keep putting their two calls to action right next to each other, right in the middle of the page, which decent place for a call to action. It's a terrible way to do it when there's two of them. And I'm like, I have to think and I'm gone. I'm gonna bounce. I'm gonna go someplace else. Okay. So if you want to have multiple calls to action, you can. We just need to make sure that we're putting them in the right places. Usually in the upper right-hand corner is a great place for a call to action, and then down on the page itself. And I'll talk about good places for calls to action here in a moment. But for every single page, we need to be able, so if I go to your about page and it talks about who you are as an artist, since we have several artists here, there should be a call to action that says shop now or browse my site or look at my portfolio or whatever it is. That way I don't have to think about, okay, do I need to go back? Do I have to go back to the home? What do I do to go? We never want to make them think. All right, next. So this is a best practice. Our contact information should be up in the upper right-hand corner of your website. Why? Because people's eyes go through a website in a Z pattern. So they start here in the upper left-hand corner, they go all the way over right here, and they stop. Why? Because places like Amazon and the other big shopping sites have trained us that is where the shopping cart is. So our eyes automatically go to that upper right-hand corner. So that is one of the sweet spots on your site. So you should have whatever it is that's most important up here in this upper right-hand corner. So you can see right here, I've made a fake navigation with a phone and an email icon up in the upper right-hand corner. And then if you look at the navigation, you'll also see that I've got shop over here, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment. So, okay. Why do we want the contact information? Because people don't scroll, okay? They don't look, that they don't work. Now, it's a little different on mobile, not a ton, but it is a little different, but it's all your contact information is down at the very bottom of the page, then it's going to be super hard for them to contact you. And where you're at right now, you want them to contact you. You want them to ask you if you can do something in pink. I love this, but I want it in a different color. I can add a skull to it or whatever it is that you do. Or do you offer expedited shipping? So you want them to be able to get a hold of you. People do business with people. They don't do business with companies. Okay. And so, and especially in this day and age where we have social media, we have the opportunity to feel like I know you because I've been following you on social media. I know your story. I know what's going on. So therefore, we build this relationship with your small business owners, and that's how we do business with them. And so we want them to feel like they can get hold of you. You want your potential customers to get hold of you. So you need to make it easy for them. Now, when you get huge and you've got millions of customers, then you can hide your contact information a little bit and have hire people to answer your call center kind of situation. All right, next. It's also a really great practice to put your social media stuff in the upper right-hand corner as well. Nothing I hate more is of getting to a website and I'm like, oh, okay, that seems kind of cool. I'm not ready to buy, but I'm ready to follow them on social media until I am ready to buy. And so if you don't put the social media where they can find it, then you're just shooting yourself in the foot. So make sure that if you have social media, and I highly recommend that you have at least some social media, and we can talk about that if you want, which ones are good and stuff as we get, you know, toward the end of the presentation. I'll make a note about that if you want to talk more about that. But put it where they can find it. Don't make them work. You know, so many times these most websites that are the you know, content management system, which is what all of you are using. It's a, you know, pre-designed where you can just go drop and drag things and put stuff where they need to be. You're not doing the code in the background kind of situation. Pretty much make the most of the time, for some reason, the social media is always down on the bottom. Well, I don't want to scroll. A website is not a grocery store. If you put stuff down on the very bottom of it, I'm not even, probably never going to see it because I'm not going to scroll. They say, and I say they, I do a ton of research and, you know, read industry blogs and stuff. And it is said that first-time visitors to a website, 80 to 90% of them do not scroll. So you have to capture their attention in that part that they see initially. So that's why a good call to action is there, having these things available so that I can follow you on social media so I can keep engaged. Okay. Cool. All right. This is just a good practice. It's good for your search engine optimization. So I'll be talking a little bit about search engine optimization because that's super important when it comes to getting people to your website, right? We have to be able to get people there. It's not like the Field of Dreams, you build it and they will come. That's not the case. People have to have a way to get to your website. And sometimes it comes through social media, sometimes it comes from advertising, sometimes it's one of your friends posts about it and they follow the link, whatever it is. So we need to make sure that, and sometimes they Google things and you find them. So one of the ranking factors, and when it comes to search engine optimization, I don't have any search engine optimization experts in here, do I? If I do, great. If not, that's fine too. But if I do, speak up. That's great. But Google, and I use Google primarily. I'm a Google partner, which means that I've done some certification, and I know all about the Google My Business stuff, which I actually did a class on a couple weeks ago for community ed. But it doesn't mean they pay me. It just means that they give me resources to be able to help people in the community be better found on search through the Google My Business tool. Anyhow, so I know from all of my research and reading that Google has about 200 ranking factors that they use to rank your website. They judge your website on these. And they tell us, I'm going to be generous and say that we know maybe 15 of them. There might be more. But you know, Google doesn't release that. Why? That's their secret sauce. Of course, they're not going to tell everybody how they do it. But they do tell us there's certain things that they're like, we check this. And so having the NAP consistent is one of them. NAP is name, address, and phone number. So this is a little bit of housekeeping. You should do a Google search for yourself, and you can also do Bing, any other place that you want to be. You know, Google does 96% of the searches that are out on the internet right now. Bing has about 2, and the other 2% is, you know, Yahoo and whatever else is out there. So anyhow, you should do a search and make sure that your information that's out on the internet is accurate. There's lots of opportunity for it not to be accurate, and so we really need to make sure that it is accurate, because Google will knock you down in the rankings. All things being the same with a competitor, you will rank lower than them if something like right here, 1910 University Drive, where it's abbreviated. If I spelled out drive here and then had it abbreviated someplace else, then that could be inconsistency that Google would clock. So it's always a good idea to just do a quick Google search once a quarter, twice a year, whenever you want to do it. And somebody asked, Karen said, can you just put in your city or post office box? Absolutely. You control what information you put out on the internet. So if you don't want your, and I highly recommend if you're all working from home, not to put your personal addresses out on the internet. So, but definitely do a check and make sure that your business and your name isn't associated with your personal address, because that stuff gets out there anyhow, but you don't have to do it on your website. You don't have to put an address out there. So great. Thanks for the question. That's fantastic. Okay. So here's that navigation thing I was talking about just a few minutes ago. So I know we've all gotten to websites where the navigation has, you know, a million options across the top, right? And you're just like, that's a lot. And all of a sudden I have to think, okay, what do we not want to make people do when they get to your website is think. So we need to distill it down. So when I get to a website that has 12 options, it tells me that the entrepreneur thinks that everything's important. So when you emphasize everything, nothing is important. Okay. So we need to distill it down to what is the important things that your customer is going to need on the website. So in general, odds are really great. Humans respond to odd in design. That just makes us happy for some reason. So 3, 5, or 7 are kind of those magic numbers. I'm very partial to 5, just because it is a nice number. It's not overwhelming, but it's not too little. When I go to a website and there's only 3, I'm like, oh, okay, they're new. They don't have enough information to give me 5. When I go to 7, I'm like, oh, it's starting to edge into too many and starting to make me overwhelmed. I never want to go to a website and feel overwhelmed. So we have 5. And so this one right here, as I talked about, that sweet spot is the most important one that you can have. So I don't care necessarily what you put here, but I want you to think about what is the most important thing that you have in your navigation, and that should be here. So a lot of times, and for most of you, it's a shop button, right? Or in Melissa's case, she's probably going to get a quote or call us. So those might be some good choices. So, because she's not going to have a shop as an electrician, right? That's not a thing. But we want to make sure that what is the most convenient thing? What is the person looking for when they come to your website? Does that make sense? Is that good? Nobody has their cameras on, so I'll just assume that you're all nodding. So, and you're not asleep, so that's good. All right, the next thing, thank you. Melissa gave me a thumbs up. Bless your heart, thank you. I love that. All the thumbs up and hearts I can get. That's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Okay, so pages. So our pages need to contain solid content to allow accurate caching. So let me tell you a story. It's a very short story. So back when the internet was new and search engines were sort of not a thing. Do you remember, what was it, Ask Jeeves? And what were the other ones that are around? That's the one I remember. Anyhow, we used to have to tell the search engines what our websites were about. So when you were coding, and this is back when you actually had to do HTML code in the background, you would have a space where you'd say, okay, these are the things that my website is about. And you'd have, you know, however many words or phrases and stuff. And so that was great, worked really well until the people who are not so ethical started going, hey, if we put other things in here, people will come to our websites. So I'm sure you all remember back in the day where you would do a search for friends and you would get a porn site. Okay, why? Because the porn people knew that when the internet was new, is that people weren't doing searches for that kind of content necessarily, but they knew that they would be looking for friends. And they also knew that if they showed up in the search results, people would likely click on them and then they would start to get those hits. So, and it wasn't just pornography, but it was also like the gambling sites and things like that. People that, you know, anyhow. So Google and the other search engines went, okay, we can't trust you to tell us what your website's about anymore. So they're like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to let you tell us what the keywords are. We're going to go in and we're going to look through all of the content and we're going to decide what your website is about. And so if you are doing, oh, for instance, you know, if, let's see, who was that? Michelle, I believe. Yes. So Michelle had a nonprofit. And so if her website still talked a lot about that Mend Project USA, then Google's going to say, oh, this is the nonprofit that's working on educating people on these things. But it's not going to come back as a result for a jeweler, metalsmith, artist, because it's clocked her as having content that's about this other thing, potentially, right? So you need to make sure that you have enough content out there for Google to cache. So how much is enough? Well, at least 300 words per page. And I know everybody kind of goes, oh, that's a lot. It used to be between 400 and 600. So it's gotten better. It has to be well written. Okay, so what do I mean by well written? Well, spelling, grammar, punctuation, capitalization, all of those things that they taught you in English in high school is taken into account. Why? Because the scammers that are out there, a good chunk of them are non-English speakers. And so a lot of websites out there that have bad grammar, bad spelling and everything because they're not English speakers are suspect. And so that's one of the first things that Google flags. So if you are not good at those things, find yourself a proofreader. And make sure that you've got that. Make your English teachers proud, and use your capitalization, your punctuation, your Oxford commas, all of those things, right? And 100% make sure that it's spelled right. So it's not just Google that judges you on your spelling. It's other people, it's your customers. If I go to a website and there's misspellings, I'm going to judge you pretty harshly. We have spell check. There's no reason why you should have spelling errors at all. So it's just lazy. And so my thought is if you're too lazy to use spell check, how are you going to actually do the things that I need you to do when I purchase things from you? Are you going to actually protect my content, protect my identity if I give you my credit card number? Okay, so between 300, about 300 words, and good information that has a good proliferation of keywords and key phrases. And I'll talk about that here in a moment. But so if you're not a writer, you should probably learn to write or start at least for your website. We need some words on there so that Google knows who you are and what you do. Okay. Don't bury the lead. So earlier I mentioned that, you know, a website is not a grocery store. You know, I'm not going to walk all the way through your website to get to the milk and eggs that are at the very back of the store. If it's not at the top, then I'm probably not going to find it. So, and that doesn't mean that everything gets to be at the top. Okay, I'm not saying they throw everything up there, but you have to decide what's important. So I don't know who is familiar, if you, back in the old days when we read newspapers, if you were in journalism, we had a really great headline, right? And then usually the first two paragraphs would summarize what happened and give you kind of the high points, right? And then the rest of the article would really go into the details and everything. And so it had a hierarchy. So the headline pulls us in. The first two paragraphs make me interested enough to read the rest of the story. But if I started off with just like the details, the deep details, you're gonna lose people. So think about that when you are putting your content on your website. None of you are using WordPress, but all of these have options where when you go in, it talks about headers like header 1, header 2, header 3, header 4. So if usually header 1 is like really large, you know, 15 to 18 point font, header 2 is a little bit smaller, and so on and so forth, right? Until you get down to paragraph font. So what happens is you get judged by, well, if I use header 1 down below, and then we use header 4, header 3, and then 1, and then 5, Google goes, okay, what kind of lunatic put this website together? It should be 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, so on and so forth. So it judges you on how you put together your content. So make sure that the important stuff's up top and that's emphasized correctly. All right, keywords and key phrases. So I already told you about the backstory for keywords and key phrases. So does that mean that they don't, that they're no longer useful? No, not at all. It just means that you don't get to tell Google what it is that your website's about. It means that you have to write things in a way that Google will say, oh, that's what this website is about. So, you know, if your website is, if you sell dog food and you say, we have the best dog food that ever dog food, and we sell quality dog food and only key ingredients are in our dog food, and you get to the point where every 3 or 4 words is the word or the phrase dog food, that's what we call keyword loading, and that's too much. So in general, about 5% of the text that's there should be your keywords, according to SEO stuff. So we also need to write our content at a 5th grade level. So back up, I told you, okay, pay attention to what they said in English, right? Okay, yes. But we tend to, when we sit down to write, we tend to write like we're writing our senior thesis. We use bigger words, we use complex sentence structures. We don't write like we talk, because we were taught in English to write at that higher level. Well, unfortunately, we speak at a 5th grade reading level, and by and large, people interact with content on the internet at about that same level. So if you have a 5th or even a 6th grade reading level on your website, then it is going to be better than if you were writing at a 12th grade reading level. And you're like, well, how do I know what level my writing's at? Okay, there's a couple ways. Well, one way that I know in particular is if you all have Microsoft Word, in the grammar and spelling check, there's a thing that you can turn on that tells you, it's called the Fleisch reading, or Flesh reading level, and it will actually go through and judge and tell you, this is a 5th grade reading level, this is a 7th grade reading level, this is an 8th grade reading level. And if you're interested in that, I actually made a video about that not too long ago. I do a little series on YouTube called Quick Tips with Kim, and I made a short under 3-minute video on how to do that in Word if you're so inclined. So Karen just asked, when you say 5% of keywords, it says, are you referring to the same word should be used or all your keywords? 5% of the same one, and then if you have multiple keywords, then it's another 5%, and so on and so forth. But also remember that sometimes, like canine nutrition and dog food could be considered the same kind of keywords, like attorney and lawyer. Even though they're 2 different words, they're really the same thing, and so Google really clocks them as the same thing. So it's weird. SEO is incredibly complicated and weird. Fortunately, all of you are using content management systems that have some good SEO tools that come built in, which is really nice, and so it'll help you out with that. All right. Okay, big, beautiful, well-lit pictures. Okay, the days of you taking a picture with your flip phone and posting it on the internet and having it be acceptable is, they are long gone. We all have one of these fancy little phones, right? And they have, you know, I think my iPhone's a 7, and it's what, a 710 megapixel camera. I remember back in the day, I bought a digital camera that was a 1 megapixel. I think it cost me $1,000. Well, it cost the office $1,000. So it's amazing that we carry around a camera in our pocket that is more powerful than pretty much 90% of the stuff that you can buy off the shelf as far as digital cameras. So there's no reason why you can't get a good quality picture, but it takes some work sometimes. So for those of you who are making jewelry, your photographs, you should get a light box. And if you don't know what a light box is, it's a box that you can put lights around so that it will photograph it and make it on a white background or whatever. And there are a whole bunch of tutorials on the internet, on YouTube specifically, that you can go that will make a light box so you can make your own, or you can order one off of Amazon for $30 or something, and it actually comes with lights. And I have one that collapses and stores in this little tiny thing, and then it pops open, which is really great. So make sure that you have good lighting, right? And that it's clear, that it's beautiful and well lit, because we respond to those photos. And especially for those of you who are selling jewelry, I have to be able to get in and look at that jewelry and be interested in what's going on there. So for Melissa, you know, it's a little bit different. She's an electrician, or her husband's an electrician. So she's going to have different kinds of pictures. And that would be something we can talk about, like, what kind of pictures would you want? Well, before and after, well, would most people understand a before and after for a well done electrical job that's not a fire? Probably not. So it's some people have an easier job of getting photos than others. Michelle says, photographing jewelry is difficult, and you can use the macro lens on your phone too. Yes, absolutely. And 100%. And you can actually order special macro lenses that add onto your phone itself. So, or you can get one of, an SLR camera and do the thing that way. But if you have an iPhone or an Android, you can take beautiful pictures with it. I know artists that are making a living just doing iPhone photography. And every time I see their work, I'm like, okay, I can do a decent job with that, but my stuff never looks this good. So one of these days I'm going to take a class on that. So, okay. So good photos, never blurry. If it's blurry, then do not put it up there, because you don't want to dilute your brand. The other thing is that, and this is specific to Melissa, is, maybe people, because she's in a people serving your people industry, right? So it's a service industry. So there should be a headshot of her husband and any of his contractors or employees. So because you're having this person come to your home, and I want to make sure that I didn't just invite Charlie Manson into my house. I want to see who's going to be coming to my home. So Melissa just asked, how many photos of yourself? At least one on the about page to give me an idea of what the team looks like. But also for you, I would say pictures of your husband actually at work, not a bad idea. That would be really great stuff. And it's kind of a proof that it's not a stock photograph. It's him actually, wiring something or doing. And they can be staged. There's nothing wrong with staging them. That's fine. It doesn't have to be like him. He's actually down and dirty with his hands in the middle of, something. So does that make sense? Cool. All right. Photos. All right, next. Okay. Okay. This is a secret sauce thing. So frequently asked questions. So we all know an FAQ page. Okay. So FAQ pages right now, Google is giving more authority to them on websites than other pages on your site. Why? My theory is this is the one place on your website that you are 100% honest. Okay, every place else on your website, we've done some wordsmithing. It's the all my best face forward kind of situation, right? But when I get to the frequently asked questions page, that's kind of where the rubber meets the road. So we need to make sure that the information is accurate. And so Google has started to, like I said, give more authority. And that's what authority is, one of those terms that you hear in search engine optimization, to the frequently asked questions page. So here's a secret that you'll only get here. Make a frequently asked questions page and answer questions 3 to 5 that people will ask you, like, do you ship to the UK? Do you blah, 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 right? Then do an equal number of questions that say, what would I want people to ask me about my business? Okay, and answer them with the thought in mind that you are whispering in Google's ear into the algorithm about your product or service. So Karen mentioned, I believe it was, yes, Karen mentioned something about doing steampunk jewelry, right? So, you know, one of her questions could be, do you have jewelry with a steampunk theme? I sure do. And I use cogs that I have collected from the last 50 years. And some of them come from watches that, you know, were made in Switzerland. You know, this is a place where she could kind of tell that story that she was talking about. So storytelling on the internet is very important, but it's also, you need to do it in the right spot. And so this is one of those opportunities where you definitely tell the story of where she got all those cogs and wheels and stuff. And you can make that work for you. Okay. All right. Onward and upward. How many questions? I'm going to say between 6 and 10 total, but you can have as many as you want. It doesn't matter. Humans are only going to look at probably the first 3. So make sure that the ones that are the most important to the humans are at the top of the page. The rest of the page, you know, if you want to do 50 questions, do it. It's not going to hurt anything. Google, the more content that you have out there, the more Google loves you. That's another thing that gives you authority in the search, is the bigger your your digital footprint is that means that you're more important. So if you were to search me, for instance, you would probably see a lot of stuff about training, because I've been doing training for closing in on 20 years. And so you will actually probably see a lot of business pages, a lot of training. So it looks like I am a big mover and shaker in training. And it's not necessarily like I'm the only trainer in the Valley that does this stuff. I just have done a lot of it over the years. So I have a lot of authority in that particular area. So that's the kind of thing. So just write till your heart's content, and continue to add to it. Just because you're done doesn't mean you're done. So, and I'll get to that in a minute. So mobile optimization, what does that mean? So you know that when you pick up your mobile device and you go to a website and you have to pinch out to be able to read the text, that is a website that's not mobile optimized. Now, you're all on platforms that should be mobile optimized, and you should definitely just pick up your phone, go look at your website on a phone, look at it on a tablet, see what it looks like. And it's just one of those ranking factors that Google's like, if you're not mobile optimized, we're not even going to deal with you anymore. It used to be that they would just drop you in the rankings, and now they're just like, it's been long enough, you should all be mobile optimized. So the other thing that I think is really important for your mobile optimization is make sure that the email and phone number are hot linked, so that if I'm on my phone and I want to call you, I can touch that and it brings up the phone or the email. So all of everyone, well, site 123 is the only one I'm not as familiar with, but I'm pretty sure that you should be able to hot link from those sites and be able to activate from the phones. So anyhow, okay, onward and upward. As far as mobile optimization, definitely check. And the other thing that you want to check when you're dealing with mobile optimization is if you've changed something. So usually with the content management systems that you're using, is you design it on the desktop because their interactive mobile apps kind of are the pits. I know Wix is a nightmare. So you really want to be on a desktop so you can see what you're doing. And you do the desktop version, and then Wix automatically goes, oh, okay, so here's your pre-done mobile version. And you can go into the mobile version and kind of rearrange things. But if it's not on the desktop version, you can't add something. You can take away things, but you can't add something that's not on the desktop version. Does that make sense? Did I explain that well? I felt like I'm rambling a little bit on that, but okay. No questions, so we're good. Okay. Okay, updated consistently. So many people are like, and putting together a website's a little bit like having a baby, right? You put all of this effort into it, and it's a lot of work, and you birth that baby, and you're like, it's done. but very much like a baby, you still have to feed them. You still have to clean them. You have to take care of them. And a website, you just don't get to birth it and leave it alone. If you do, then that works against you. So you have to update your website consistently. So what does that mean? Well, there's lots of ways to do it. I mean, in general, what happens, most people get the content on their website pretty much, hammered out. And you're like, okay, my core set of services is not going to change. So that's nothing that I can really futz with. I can't really update that. For those of you who are artists, you have information, you have new content all the time because you're creating. So you'll have easily new content. Melissa's going to have a little bit of a trouble because what happens with her website is, an electrician is an electrician is an electrician, right? The industry's been around since we've had electricity, and it hasn't significantly changed. There's nothing that is changing a lot in that industry right now. So once she gets the content the way it should be for the website, it's going to be hard to kind of come up with new ways to keep it updated. So one way, and I don't recommend this, but one way to do that is, having some kind of special. Not a big fan of specials or coupons or something like that, just because ultimately that's kind of a race to the bottom. Is you're just kind of marketing to the people who are looking for a deal, and that's not where you want to be. Send them to Walmart, let them go to Michael's, do that. Let the coupon shoppers go to the places that can afford it. We want the people who want your work, not a discount. Okay. So you could also do featured items is one way rather than a discount. You can feature something. So, in Melissa's case, we're featuring, outside lighting this month. Contact us about how we can help you with your, lighting for your patio or something like that, right? Seasonal kinds of things. Another thing that you can do to update your website consistently is to write a blog. And a blog is, Melissa's like, it's kind of boring. I know. Sometimes we have, businesses that are so needed, like what you do. I have to have electricity, but it's not sassy, it's not snazzy, it's not sexy, right? So it's a little harder to be super excited about the content and get it out there. But there's ways around that. Look at, we can get there. So anyhow, blogging. I cannot recommend blogging highly enough. It is a great way. If you do a blog a month, then you've updated your website once a month. It's putting more content out on your website. So I'm going to go back to Melissa again, just because, her industry, her husband's industry, but her industry is, okay, we've got our content, but there's other things like what I just mentioned, that seasonal outdoor lighting, right? That's not really what the bread and butter is of what her husband does. But if somebody wants him to come do it, certainly, and we'll pay him, that would be cool. And, a blog would be a great way to talk about how outdoor lighting can really change, you can get all frou-frou about decorating and talk about things like that. So it's a great way, blogs are a great way to talk about things that are in the industry that don't necessarily specifically talk to the goal of your website, which is that conversion or that lead, right? So again, this goes back to Karen and her stories, right? So Karen, you're having a blog on your website that talks about the creation process of this piece of artwork that you made and where all those little pieces came would be brilliant. Okay, that would be a fantastic place. And then you can hot link to it to the item. So people, when they look at the item in your shopping cart, Karen's already planning, good job. When they look at it, because I will agree with your son on one level is because people get there and they want to shop, right? They don't want to read a big old long narrative about this, right? They want to kind of see what's going on. And then when they get interested in this piece and they're like, oh, that looks like a piece of vintage jewelry. That's kind of interesting. And then there's a link that goes to the blog that talks about, that was Great Aunt Susan's jewelry that she brought back from Warsaw after the war kind of situation. Then they're like, oh, now I've connected with this piece of jewelry. But when you're, you have a very limited amount of stuff that you can say in the description for the item on Shopify. And again, people have a short attention span. So a blog would be a really great alternative to that. So see where you tell me what you want, I'm able to tell you where you need to use it. So, okay, so I've given you some ideas about how to update your websites. You just need to make a plan and do it. I wish I could say that you didn't have to, but you do. All right, next. Okay, now some of you have content management systems that may not allow this, but they have their own. So Google Analytics. Google Analytics is a piece of code that you paste into the back end of your website, into the coding, the HTML coding, that feeds information from the search and tells you where people are coming from, what words they're using to find you, how long they spent on your page, where they went to when they went to this page to that page and stuff. Now, Melissa, specifically, you're at site 123. I would bet they have their own analytics. I know Shopify does. I think Wix allows analytics, almost sure of it. Anyhow, if you can't do an actual Google Analytics, the website developer that you're using has something similar that you can use, and that's fine. So I think that you should 100% be paying attention to those analytics. Oh, thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. That people are, be paying attention to where people are coming from, how long they're spending on your site. Bounce rate, if you've never heard of bounce rate, is so important. So bounce rate is the time that people spend on a page. So if somebody comes to your page and they spend less than 30 seconds on that page and they bounce back to the search, then it is not good. So most of the time when I start working with clients, their bounce rate is somewhere at 80%. I want to get it under 40%. Ideally, I'd like to have it under 20%. But it takes a little bit of work. There has to be good engaging calls to action. We have to be addressing the pain points, what the people are looking for when they come to your website, and you have to address it specifically with those calls to action. And so that's where these things come in. So be paying attention to that. I need a drink. Hang on. I promise it's not alcohol. Not this early in the morning anyhow. Okay, so Google Search Console used to be called Google Web Tools, and it is kind of the internal version of analytics in a way. So analytics is really publicly facing. It tells us all about what's going on from the public people, the traffic that's coming to your website. Whereas Search Console does a little of that as well, but it's really focused on internal issues. And the greatest thing about Search Console, if you can use it, now you're all using content management systems that may not allow you to do this. Again, it's a little piece of code that you paste in the back end, and some of you may not be able to do that because your CMS doesn't allow you to do that. Anyway, but if it does allow you to do that, the one great thing about the Search Console is you can alert Google to when you have added new content. So Google has a schedule of when it kind of goes through and sends what they call their spiders out to crawl the content of the website. And it's every 6 to 8 weeks. It tends to go through and say, okay, okay, this is what we crawled last time. This is what's there now. There's been no changes. If they go to your website enough times and there haven't been any changes, then you fall lower and lower on the frequency roster of that schedule. So what we want to do, and the more frequently that you update your website, of course, the more frequently that they come out to your website because you're putting fresh content out there. But it still can take between 4 and 6 weeks for those spiders to come find you. Now, the Search Console, you can literally, once you've claimed it and you're actively using it, you can say, hey, I just put the new content on this page, and you can send a little alert and Google will come and cache it within a couple of weeks. So you can actually get your information out into the search engines at least 2 weeks earlier than what you did prior to just kind of sitting back and letting Google do it. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to assume you're all nodding at me. So, okay, if you are, and this is another kind of, housekeeping type situation. If you have a mailing list, and mailing lists can still be very, very useful in the right circumstance, then make sure that you're using the word join rather than subscribe. Nobody wants to subscribe to a newsletter, but they do want to join something. And if you're going to do newsletters, there's actually specific topics and specific ways and strategies to make it work really well in this day and age. And that's something that you and I can talk about on a one-on-one, or if we want to talk, because we've got another 25 minutes of our meeting today and I'm almost done with my content. So I'm going to open it up for questions and we can talk more about that. But if you do have that on your site, make sure that it says join rather than subscribe. So this is my email, which you've already got. I would give you my phone number, but I am currently working from home and I haven't been to my office since August. So if you call my phone number, you'll just, it'll forward to my email anyhow. So you might as well just email me. I'm going to talk a little bit about your content management systems, the Site 123, Shopify, and so we've got 2 Shopifys, Site 123, and a Wix. Okay, cool. So I'm going to take just a moment and kind of talk about those. So Site 123 out of the options is probably my least favorite. I don't think it is as versatile as the other options, and it tends to get to be more expensive. Initially, when you signed up for it, Michelle, or Melissa, I'm sorry, it was probably fairly inexpensive. And then as you get further along and more entrenched in it, and the price goes up and up and up. At least that was what I had seen last time. And there's a lot of upselling to it. So, and there's just not a lot of versatility and not a lot of stuff that it will do. So that being said, I know you said that you were thinking about swapping over, and I would 100% look into that. I'm not a fan. And I see what you said, something about email blasts. I'm going to read that in a minute, and we'll get to that in just a second. But so as far as Shopify and Wix, I love both of these options. I am a huge Wix fan. I am just not too far away from being a certified Wix Pro, meaning that I know how to do all the things in there. I just haven't done the certification test yet. So I like it as an option, really, because you can use it kind of forever for free until you want to start taking money or have a dedicated URL. I use it as a teaching tool. So when somebody comes to me and they're like, oh, I want a website, but I don't know what I want, I say, okay, I'm going to make you set up a Wix site and start playing with it so that you start to understand what can be done with a website and what can't be done. So you understand about navigation bars and, slide carousels and media that you insert and text and all of those things. So I'm like I said, I'm a big fan, but I'm equally a big fan of Shopify because Shopify is very focused on selling a thing, right? So I think it is a wonderful solution for those of you who have tangible items that you're selling. So terrible solution for Melissa, not terrible, but not the best solution for Melissa because she's selling a service rather than an actual item. Shopify is really focused and they do it so well. And I like that. Now, the one thing that I will say about all of content management systems like these pre-developed ones is they're what's called proprietary, meaning if you choose to pick up and leave and go to another one or do something else, you don't get to take your website and your code with you. It belongs to whoever, Wix or Shopify or Site 123. So you have to start from the get-go from wherever you go and kind of rebuild. So that can be problematic. Although Shopify, is it Shopify? No, Square, never mind. That's bought Weebly, and Weebly has some porting capabilities if you pay more for it, but That's none of you are doing Weebly, so that's fine. Anyway, so that if you ever choose to, you outgrow these solutions, and I think that that is Wix and Shopify are fine for the level most of you are at. If you ever get to the point where you're selling thousands of items a month, then we might want to move you into, say, a WordPress site where there's a little more coding, but it's a lot more versatile, and it will grow with you. So that's my quick and dirty on different website platforms. And if you want to talk more, if you're not happy with the one that you have, by all means, we can talk about it today, or you can make an appointment with me. I'll be happy to talk to you about it on a one-on-one session like I do. So Michelle said, I do an email blast every other week to my stores and email customer list. Yes. I struggle with what to say since I feel like I'm always selling, but don't like to share a ton about myself. Any idea of newsletter topics that are more interesting than buy my jewelry? Yes. Okay, great. Thank you for asking that question, because it gives me the opportunity to talk about something. I love email newsletters. I subscribe to so many. I don't even, it is criminal how many I subscribe to. Mostly because I love having content delivered to my inbox every morning that I can go through and go, oh, there's an article on SEO I want to read. There's an article on e-commerce that I want to read. There's an article about API and Shopify that I want to read, right? That's, I have all of those delivered to my inbox, and I spend the first hour of my day just going through and going, yep, this is interesting, and whether or not I'm going to share it or add it to my knowledge base. So, but that being said, your email newsletter has to be more than a selling newsletter. And you're right on top of that, Michelle. You have to give some kind of value, right? So what kind of value do we have? So for you, could be how-tos, or not giving away the proof in the pudding, or your secret sauce or anything, but how-to basics could be a really great item, or it could be great sales. You're like, oh, I've discovered this new propane torch, or I've discovered this new kind of bead, or I've discovered this kind of thing. So it's a product reviews, which by the way, work really great for blog content, FYI. So you need to be able to tap into your people who are subscribed to your newsletter, and what do they want? Why do they want to subscribe to your newsletter? Is it just because they've bought from you before and they're looking for the new stuff and kind of seeing what the next thing is that they want to buy, or are they looking for other kinds of content? So I will tell you that you will soon be subscribed to the SBDC's newsletter, and you are welcome to unsubscribe if you don't want to be there, but we will add you because we send out a weekly newsletter that not only includes what upcoming trainings that we have, but also items that are relevant to small business owners. So as you might guess, in the past year, we've been doing a lot of information about COVID-19, about the CARES Act, about the Payroll Protection Program, about EIDL loans, all of those things that have been keeping our small businesses afloat. And we've been doing a lot of training about that as well, but we've been putting information. The deadline for the city grants are December 31st, right? So we're trying to make sure that we're addressing the issues that our entrepreneurs are having by putting that content in the newsletter and making it useful to them. If Melissa, you are like, okay, what kind of content do I put in a newsletter for an electrician? Well, what things do I need to watch out for? What are signs of what's normal? I've flipped a breaker, right? And what is, oh, I need to call an electrician kinds of situations. Or it also could be like, before and after. So your husband probably installs lighting, I'm assuming, like bathroom lighting and fixtures and that kind of stuff. So how that can change your entire room by the lighting, and kind of do it as a home decorating kind of a situation, and how, this is, if you take away that ugly spinning fan thing that everybody has, right? And put in a different kind of light fixture that changes the entire mood of your home. And this is the kinds of things. So that could be one way of having a newsletter that would be a little more engaging. Okay, cool. Let's see. Karen says psychological aspects of jewelry, how to find your style, how your pieces fit into different personalities, jewelry size versus size of person. Oh, nice. Very good. Very good. Okay, so Melissa asked, how do you convey trust? Oh, okay. So couple of things we already talked about, making sure that, all of your stuff is spelled right, your website looks professional, there's a picture of you out on the internet. Those are the kinds of things. Testimonials is another one that reviews, getting reviews, all of those things. Telling an about story, on the about page. So, make a list of every question you can remember being asked, every situation you worked with, and then expand to give people information. That's potential for, yeah, that could be as well. Yeah, very nice. So that's the kind of thing, all of those things. The other thing is making sure that you have everything set up. So back in the days before the internet, how did we judge people? Okay, well, we found them because we either would see a billboard or a sign, or we'd look them up in the yellow pages. Now we can do a Google search, or we can see like there's something on the side of their car, and we still go do a Google search. But the entry into your business is your website, your online presence. So you have to make sure that is on point. So your website is the center. If you have any social media platforms, make sure that your social media platforms are branded with the logo and the colors and everything that is on your website. So I don't think that if I go to the website and then I go look at the Facebook page and they've got two different logos, I'm like, is this the same? All of a sudden, that starts to break down trust. So make sure that everything is pretty much as perfect as you can make it. So those are great ways to build trust. Another thing that we have, and I'm going to go to my Google page, and I'm just going to put in Idaho SBDC because that's us. It's just easier. And this is a Google My Business listing right here. I'm sure you've all seen this. These are free. I taught a class on this 2 weeks ago for Community Ed. If you want to know more about this, I can send you the link. Just shoot me an email and I will be happy to send that to you. You can, if you don't already have one of these for your business, you may be able to have one. Melissa, 100% can have one. You other three, if you're only doing business online, where you're only selling stuff online, you may not be eligible for one of these. But Amanda mentioned that she was doing, I believe, going, what was it? Going to fairs and doing stuff like that. Was that you, Amanda? And so that counts, but we're not doing in-person events right at the moment, although that may change this summer. You're going to start going to those craft fairs and those kinds of things. Oh, you're a seamstress, and it was you. Okay, thank you. But right now, if you're only selling online, then you can't have a Google My Business. But if you have stuff in a consignment someplace, right? If there's some kind of in real life type situation that you're selling your items, then you qualify. Okay, so that is kind of the quick and dirty. So the other thing I will tell you about Google My Business that will help you is you can put a post on your Google My Business that's very much like a mini blog or a Facebook post. It has a picture, has some words, and it can talk about your items. You can put your products out there. You can talk about, for Melissa, it's her services, what kind of services that your husband offers. So, she said that she's doing residential primarily. So, we want to make sure that she's found as a residential electrician and not a commercial electrician. So that's someplace that the Google My Business can really help you with. So highly recommend, if you don't already have one, Melissa, get one. And if you have questions, let me know and I'll help you go through that. So Oh, you do. Great. Ooh, do you want us to look at it, Melissa? I'd be happy to bring it up, but if you don't want me to, I'm fine too. Either way. Stockist page, since I can't have a Google. What is stockist? I'm not familiar with stockist. I'm going to do a, oh, okay. Wow, look at all these options. My gosh, I'm overwhelmed right away. That's a lot. Um, so what I'm seeing here is it's a little bit like a place where you can just go buy things, kind of like a Shopify, but it's somebody else's site where you're putting your stuff there. Oh, okay. Yes, that would be great. I think that would be fantastic. It's a good start. It's good. And it also, especially if it has links to those stores that carry your stuff, then 100% do that. Have that on your website. That's good for your SEO. So do you need to pay attention to all the umbrella sites that may have your information, but then asks is it's you? Yes. Just because that comes back to that name, address, and phone number item is that consistency. And those aggregator sites that you're talking about, they're such a pain because they're very infrequently accurate. And of course, if you want to change the information on them, then you have to register. So, but you should be monitoring your online presence anyhow. And if you are on those sites, then I guess register, but turn them down on their advertising and whatnot, because they're going to be their bread and butter. That's why they put you on their site, is because they want you to pay for advertising. So yeah, so don't sign up for them. It's kind of like Yelp. Okay, so in general, none of you, well, actually, Melissa might have a Yelp listing. Service industry stuff tends to be on Yelp in our area. However, you know, for instance, all the rest of you do not necessarily need a Yelp page. Just keep an eye on Yelp and make sure that you don't already have a Yelp page. And if you do, claim it and monitor it, make sure that's accurate, but don't set one up unless you have to, because they have a really aggressive sales team and they will really really want you to buy their advertising. And so you're all small businesses enough that it's probably not a good return on your investment to purchase it at this point. So is it a good idea to link to reviews on other sites? Yes, potentially, absolutely. You mean like if you have your Google reviews and you want to link them onto your website? So, and okay, then yeah, absolutely. If there is an option, and especially with Wix and Shopify, they may already have a built-in app that pulls it in for you and like kind of runs it in a running loop like for social media. So, oh, Amanda. That's terrible that you turned Yelp down and they listed you as a nudist camp. Well, I mean that's a different. There's nothing wrong with that other than you're not a nudist camp. So I've never heard that happen. That's not, especially when you're not a nudist camp. So
Yeah, I think they just got confused about what my business was. It was really funny.
yeah, I'm like, well, that's an interesting pivot. It wasn't one I thought about, but okay, here we are. So, so Michelle says, does the SBDC or you have info on Facebook or Instagram ads? That would be something that you and I could talk about. Yes, I do. It's absolutely. So we walk through Instagram, Facebook ads. Facebook owns Instagram. So doing your advertising on one, you can automatically port it over and advertise on the other. You can also do Google ads if you're so inclined. And it really depends. But yeah, that would be something that we'd want to talk about and decide what your budget is, what your strategy is, who the target is, right? So, you know, I don't know where you're listed, Melissa, or where you're located, but I'm guessing your husband doesn't want to go to Elmore County, you know, Glens Ferry. He probably doesn't want, or to McCall. if he's down here and down here, right? We need to make sure that if you're doing your advertising, that you're targeting it correctly so that we're getting the right customers to your door. So we also don't want a bunch of commercial people coming to you because, you know, obviously he doesn't do commercial work. So, all right. Hey, I managed to fill up an hour and a half. Look at that, always happens. So you're welcome to turn your microphones on, or you can keep chatting. That's working very well. I'm gonna double check and make sure I didn't miss anything in the chat, but are there any other questions that you have that I didn't answer as far as this topic goes? No.
Yeah, I have a question.
Good.
It's kind of probably a basic question, but I just got something in the mail asking me to pay for my domain name, and I don't remember having done that probably 5 years or 10 years ago or whatever. The question is if I work through Wix, are they automatically, is my domain name kept by them, or how does that work?
It can be, but you could have registered it someplace else. So you could have registered at domain.com or godaddy.com or any of those. And so I have never seen a notification for domain re-upping via snail mail.
Yeah.
It's always done via email.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
It's a little strange.
the thing. Take a picture of it and email it to me. I'd like to see that if you still have it. And the other thing that you can go look at is if you want to know is you can go look at your, if you don't remember, you can go into your Wix settings and they should be able to tell you whether or not it's registered with you or with somebody else, or with them or with somebody else. And then you can also look at the WHOSIS, and that's WHOSIS database, and that will give you some information too. So Michelle shared her website and she wanted us all to look at it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that while I am, there it is. And then I'm going to answer Karen's, sort of answer Karen's question, which is what are the most important social media? It really depends on who your target customer is. So if your target customers tend to be a little older, like in the 40 or 35 to up range, then Facebook is probably a good choice, but it's also a very crowded place and it's really hard to get any traction as a small business. So that one's going to be tough. If you have a lot of visual stuff that appeals to the younger demographic, Instagram's probably a really good place to be. You know, those are the two kind of big dogs. I don't see any reason any of you would want to be on Twitter. And TikTok is new and tends to skew very, very young. So we're talking our Zennials, our teens and early 20s. So if that's your demographic, maybe TikTok. So it really depends on who your target customer is. So that being said, let's see, I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. So here's Union Studio Metals from, this is Michelle, thank you. And so look at, she's got a slider that goes through, she's got a shop now, she's got big, beautiful pictures. When I click on the shop now, it goes in and we see this is a nice crop. I'm like, ooh, this is interesting. I don't know what it is, but I'm kind of intrigued. So nice job on the pictures. Oh, that's really cool. Let's see, let's click in and look at. Okay. Okay. Yeah. And this was a Shopify site, correct? Yeah. Yeah. That's what I thought. Looked like it. So yep, powered by Shopify right there. So yeah, this is looking really great. So So Shop Now is kind of our go-to for, you know, a good call to action. And I think that's great. And so we need a call to action on this pretty girl. Do we not have one? No, I don't see one on her. So you might add one on her so that we, so that I don't have to scroll. So that's the new one. You've got your cart, you've got a login, we've got a search. We've got a little notification up here that you can change week to week, month to month, day to day, whatever you want to do, which is nice. Great logo, good branding. So it's really a beautiful site. Really good job. If I were going to talk about this, I might talk a little more about maybe distilling your calls to action or maybe changing them up since you've already got a slider. Maybe talk about but Shop Now is not a bad thing. So then if your website's in good shape, then we have to start talking about how do we get people to it? So what's the back end and what's your SEO doing? What is your social media doing? And I don't see your social media up here in the upper right hand corner. Do you have social media? Oh, follow us on Instagram. There it is, but it's not hot linked. I'm not going to go follow you on Instagram because you're going to make me search for you. And so this needs to be clickable. You've got join the journey. That's cool. So you've got gift cards and stuff. So yeah, I mean, in general, it looks really great. It looks professional. Oh, so it's a Shopify thing with the social media. Okay, cool. But yeah, you know, if you all, any of you wanted to contact and get in touch and get on my calendar and spend more one-on-one where I'm just focused on you and your chef and your strategy, that's what I'm here for. I also wanted to point out that I've got 2 more classes through community education coming up. One of them is, I believe it's the basics of Instagram, and then one of them's on YouTube. I believe are the next 2 that I'm going. Oh, by the way, yeah, that's another social media platform that I guess I should have mentioned. It is owned by Google, so it is the 2nd largest search engine in the world. If you can figure out a way to get good content onto YouTube, then it is a wonderful way to drive traffic to your website and get known. As a matter of fact, probably so much easier than working on your SEO on your website would be easier to figure out a way to make content that is in video form. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and
Kim, I'm taking your YouTube class.
Are you? Fantastic.
Now
I
I got to
look
look
forward
for
to-
the Instagram one.
Yeah, I think it's next week.